Probably now, I guess it was about 5 years ago, I made a very poor decision and chose to try meth. I ended up meeting somebody who was connected to the cartel. I met him, knew him for about 5 months, and he had been being investigated by the U.S. Marshals for about 5 years. But that 5 months of knowing him was just enough time to get me pulled into this whole conspiracy. I just sent my kids off to school. The U.S. Marshals bang on my door, and it was probably about maybe 7:30 in the morning, and guns drawn, get down on the floor, sort of right on my house. I mean, it's awful. It's like, you know, I'm sitting here and you don't know why, and I don't know why at this point. I don't feel like I'm this big criminal person. And it was hard, it was really hard. I think I'd been there for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and had been told that our pleas had been pushed out to October. And there's absolutely nothing I can do about anything. I'm just stuck in jail. And the first thing of any sort of time frame that I get is my plea that comes in, which is 10 to life. Well, when I was in the Caldwell County Jail, you know, I had no intentions of going to church. I didn't go to church. What would, you know, why would I go to church? And one day I was playing cards with this woman, and she said, "Oh, I'm going." And I was like, "Oh, great! You're gonna go and leave me here? Now I can't play cards, you know." And these are what I'm thinking. And she looks at me and she's like, "You coming?" And I was like, "Who? Me?" And I kind of had all these thoughts run through my head, kind of like, you know, I don't go to church, but you know, somewhere other than this tank that I'm constantly in, you know, it's probably quiet. You know, I've been to church before, but it's quiet. So I was like, sure. Kind of is what happened. And that was the first time I went to church in a long time. During that first church service, there was kind of a moment at the end of church. I was kind of listening the whole time, and you know, it was like, okay, whatever sort of things. I've heard these things before. It was kind of more like Bible study than it was like church. But at the very, very end of it, there was this moment where these people, like, were having this conversation. This conversation was so, like, the same conversation I'd had with my dad back in like 8th grade. And the way that they're talking about it was like almost the same way that my dad and I had the same conversation. But I finally just got to the point where I was like, I give it to you. There's nothing more that I can do about any of this, and I give it to you, and I trust you. And there's a certain amount of freedom in itself as you're sitting in jail, this freedom that comes over you, this feeling of freedom that I don't have to worry about this anymore. There are so many moments along this path that I can see God completely stepping in. And when you read in your Bible and you actually put your trust and faith, He does take care of it. And I feel like when I said I finally turned it over, I was like, there's nothing I can do. I put all of my trust in God and asked my attorney that if for any decision that he asked me to make, if he would pray to God and ask Him if it was the right decision for me, then I wouldn't even question Him anymore, because I couldn't. You know, I couldn't try and keep control of everything. Federal prison camp was the first place that I could touch my children, and that was on April 5th of 2014. They would come visit. I went 11 months without touching my children. They would visit, and we'd visit on the phone through, you know, there's a piece of glass, and so we'd put our hands up and try and touch, but we couldn't touch each other. Couldn't hug my kids. I will never forget April 5th, 2014. My kids came running at me. They were crying. I was crying. My dad was in the background crying, and we hugged. My name is Jessica Mitchell, and I'm a gratefully recovered addict. And here's what I know. With God, all things are possible. Without is no longer an option for me.